is the Stubborn German Podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, coming to you from the Stubborn German Brewing Company in delightful Waterloo, Illinois. And I'm joined, as always, by the esteemed proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, Mr. Chris Ron.
Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Everything is up, and we'll find out more about that in a moment.
Okay.
Of course, Mr. Jerid Saffel, our producer.
Good evening.
And once again, we have another Jerid in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought another beer so they couldn't make me leave.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not true. Chris gave it to me.
On the house.
Yeah.
this is, a quasi-continuation episode from the previous one because our friend Jerid has agreed to join us once again. So,
Yeah, for sure.
welcome to the show, friends.
Thank you.
That'd be you.
Oh, hello.
Glad to be.
I'm so happy that you let me be on my podcast.
You know
So,
what?
other way around.
You never get enough attention, Kevin. You always introduce everybody else, and you gloss over yourself.
That's true.
We're so
I
glad
snuck,
to
I
have
snuck
you
it
here.
in before the beginning. I don't know if
Yeah.
you heard that. I said, I'm Kevin Ostie.
Everybody's glad that Kevin's here.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Though, one of the hallmarks of these Stubborn German podcasts are the Stubborn German Word of the Day competitions.
Oh, yeah.
That our masochistic leader has continuing to force upon us, in which he throws out a word and none of us German speakers have to guess what it is.
Yeah.
And I will say that you can also play along at home.
You sure can. Yep, just email in your guess
Just text it to Chris.
before you listen to the end of it, because I'll know.
No Googling.
Yeah, exactly. All right, German word of the day is Kleiderschrank.
I'm sorry.
Kleiderschrank.
Kleiderschrank.
Ooh, I have some ideas.
Do you for the Kleiderschrank?
I do too, but
Kleiderschrank.
this is a family
I was
friendly
gonna say,
podcast.
I know
Okay.
somebody who's Kleiderschrank.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure this out.
Well, Jared, as you know, we'd like to be polite on this podcast
Yeah,
and
so
let our
I'll be
guests
polite
go
about
first.
it. Yeah. Oh,
No, I'll be polite. No, that means you go first.
that's fine.
That means Jared and Kevin have no
Kleiderschrank.
idea.
yeah. I'm gonna go with a downstairs lady piercing.
Oh, wow. That is very specific.
Wow.
That goes in the hallmark of guesses. We need to have a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, vague.
A German word of the day guesses. A downstairs lady, and not the woman that lives downstairs.
Right. That's what I started to picture was like somebody in the basement doing piercings. And
yes.
I before E, except for C. Okay, I got it. All right, downstairs lady piercing.
Kevin, you went before me last time. I will do you the favor of
Thank
going
you.
first.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you say it again?
It's a Kleiderschrank.
Yeah, Kleiderschrank.
Kleiderschrank. Okay.
The Kleiderschrank.
I'm going to say, man, this is tricky.
Man, this
Let's
is
say
M-A-N.
baseball cleat. Baseball cleat.
Wow.
You
Do
got
they
a
play
got a-
baseball in Germany?
pair of Kleiderschranks. on.
Negative.
Okay.
So
Well,
I mean,
rules
maybe.
out.
I don't know.
We're off to a good start.
Well, Lars Newbar.
It
Well,
doubles
he's
as
Japanese,
a
though.
soccer
Japanese,
cleat.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's Germanese.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it's
Kevin?
probably the right guess. That's what I'm thinking.
Baseball cleat. Kleiderschrank.
Yeah, Kleiderschrank.
A Kleiderschrank.
Get your Kleiderschranks on. It's time to play ball.
Yeah. I don't.
I wouldn't listen to anybody who told me that. Like, you know what? Just not
Put
today.
on your
No.
downstairs lady piercing. It's time to play balls.
Oh. Yeah. Jared's going to have to do some editing
Oh,
on this
man.
Yeah.
What German word of the day?
one. Right. No, we didn't do it this one.
No. It's just a big beep. There was something missing from this episode. I can't quite put my finger on it.
It was 3 minutes worth of beep.
3-minute beep.
What in the great Kleiderschrank is going on
Oh,
here?
my God.
I'm going to say it is a hero sandwich.
Oh, like G-Y-R-O.
No, not the Greek one. Like,
Oh,
like a
hero.
Like literally?
a Jersey sub sandwich, like a hero, like an Italian hero, H-E-R-O.
Not one of those Greek heroes.
The
That
Euros, yeah.
Like
oh,
the
right. Euro, yeah.
Kid Rock, H-E-R-O.
That's
So
it.
we're describing a sandwich not from
Hero.
Germany in German.
Right, yeah.
From
All right.
Jersey.
Okay.
Hey, I'm in.
I mean, I thought
I just want to say
thought
I
I
was
knew
in the pool.
everything about sandwiches, but I'm Googling hero sandwich.
Yeah, I don't know what a hero is, right?
I don't know.
It's like
Maybe.
it's like a grinder, but in a different state.
Oh, yeah, grinder. Okay. Got it. Yep, never mind. All right, we're good. You can quit editing now and then start
Okay.
right
Resume.
And go.
Yeah. The German word of the day is hey, so how about beer?
here. Beer's fun, right?
Well, it's kind of like when you go under for oral surgery. You know, the sentence starts, and then it's 2 hours later when you come back, and it doesn't seem like anything ever happened.
I sure am glad you said surgery because I was going
Cut
to
the
lose
middle
it.
out.
When you
Yeah,
go
so did
down
I.
for oral surgery,
Surgery.
Not that we
This is
advise.
The pause, I'm like,
family-friendly podcast, folks.
Yes.
Not that we recommend fentanyl for this episode, but
There's a checkbox I can check
If
when
you
I
got it.
post an episode that says adults only or something to that effect. So yeah, I
Okay,
usually
so
don't check
a very
that box.
fairly frequent question we get at the brewery
right on.
yeah, let's move on.
is,
Yeah,
how the heck do you get a new beer on tap?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, through all that, that's what you're thinking.
It's top of mind.
Like, okay, do you like have the idea for a beer style, or?
All right, so
or-
back it up. So legit, people come in here and
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
and
No, sometimes people come in here.
yes, no, they
Occasionally
come in
there
all
are-
the time. Yeah.
Every
people
day,
here.
please come in for a beer.
Well, so the perception is either Chris is just this never-ending fountain of beer ideas,
Oh, that's totally me.
and people want to know, hey, there's different stuff on tap. Where'd it come from?
Yes.
Where's the idea?
Yeah. How did that happen?
Gotcha.
Why did you do this? What are you doing?
You doing?
What do you do all day? That's really what they ask. And I kind of was like, well,
Cleater shonking,
I
apparently.
cleater shrunk the heck out of this one.
or they
Honey,
say
I shrunk the
on
cleaner.
Thursday they come in and say, "I'm going to be
All right.
here.
Yeah, that's winning the podcast so far.
I'm going to be here Saturday. Can you have a batch of alt beer brewed up for me? You know, or
Bingo.
whatever."
Something that's
Yeah,
been
no,
off. Yeah.
no, I can't. And we'll explain why.
Okay.
And I'm glad we have Jerid on this one as well. That he has.
That's the first time anyone's ever said that.
Right?
I'm glad we have Jerid.
Yeah.
They never say that on this
Well,
podcast.
Jared with a lot
Yeah,
of
we-
brewing experience.
We
and-
should have a lot of good commentary on this. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, basically, here's how it works. Like a lot of times, you have the idea for the beer style, right? So like, I want to make a pale ale, or I want to make, I kind of want to make a stout, but not like the last 4 stouts I did. Something like this or whatever. So it's got a different ingredient or different. Whatever, maybe it's a lighter stout or a heavier stout or whatever, or maybe the pale ale is a hazy pale ale, or maybe
a
this one's like
clear IPA.
clear and like classic. Like I want to make Sierra Nevada pale ale, but I can't make Sierra Nevada pale ale because obviously
They already
they
make
already
it.
did it. So I have to make it a little different
with mint.
with mint this time.
You
no,
need an idea, is what you're
easy,
saying.
Kevin. So sometimes you have the idea for a beer, right?
Yeah.
And then other times
I call it the idea for a beer.
the idea for.
A deer.
Then other times you have an awesome name that just sticks with you, and it's like, all right, I need to come up with a beer for this name because it's got to get out there. Like I got to get this name out there.
Do you have any examples that come to mind of names that came before beers?
No. Names that came before beers? Yeah, actually I do. The Hop Tub Time Machine.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
had to invent
Good
a
one.
beer that lived up to that.
It was Steve and Jeremy, our brewers, talking about. So they were looking in the kettle, and Steve was like, "Look at all them little hops down there. Looks like they're in a hop tub." And Jeremy's like, "Oh, like a hop tub time machine."
Boom.
Nice.
And then, we should like make a beer out of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then so it went that way, you know. So here's this weird name, and they already had the logo in their head, and they like
Wow,
the idea
yeah.
for all that. And then they designed the beer, and basically the next day they're like, "Hey, we have a beer. We have the next IPA we're making." And I'm like, oh, "Great," because I don't have to think of it.
Well, and they had at that point, then they had the total package. They had the name,
They really did.
they had the beer, the whole thing.
But
Yeah,
it
that's
started.
great.
It was a quickly evolving thing. Where some other times it's like you just have this idea for a name idea, which I can't think of a great one. But sometimes we do stuff like we did today. We actually brewed a beer. One of the guys in the New Hanover Deutschmeisters that had always played Stubborn Fest, the lead guy on accordion, actually passed away over this past year, or I guess last year. And so we made a beer like in his honor. So it was kind of like, what kind of beer would you make? And it's like, well, what would he drink?
What do you like?
Yeah. So we kind of you have the name already. We're gonna call it Deutschmeister whatever, Deutschmeister Pilsner, Deutschmeister. So it's a Helles. So it's Deutschmeister Helles is what we decided to make. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you have the name first. Sometimes you have the idea.
It's kind of you could actually do like an honor series of those.
Yeah,
honoring those who have come and gone,
who have played polka before us.
For sure. Right. So, Jerid, over at Heavy Riff, what's your process of what comes first, the chicken or the name?
Man, I think I talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. It's easier for me to go backwards off of a name through to the concept of what the beer is going to be, because it just comes from listening to music all the time. That's pretty much what everyone in the brewery does. So many of our employees are in bands or just have dedicated so much time and space to music in their homes that excuse me, you end up with someone comes in, man, I heard this. I don't know, it's a Jackson Browne song. This would be a cool name for a beer. And then it goes on the list.
Running on Empty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good name for an NA beer.
See? Oh, my gosh, friends.
See? Wow.
You've witnessed history.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Hope you enjoy this episode.
You literally just, we're sitting around here drinking beers. This is how myself and my business partners and my brewers were drinking beers after work. Music's on. That'd be a good idea. Write it down. We'll see where it goes. Might go nowhere. Might go somewhere. But we've also had, experiences where we went to set out to make a certain beer that had a name. We're going to taste one in a little bit called Deer Agony. And Deer Agony was not called Deer Agony when I was brewing it.
I mean, we might as well crack this open, right? I mean, let's not agonize ourselves.
So the personality of the beer changed and didn't match the name or the original name?
No. So what had happened was...
What had happened?
All of us at the brewery are massive Motorhead fans. And
you have a sweet...
we have a mural of Lemmy.
The mural,
Nice. It's no joke, probably 8 foot by 10 foot high.
That's a big limit.
Yeah, it's a big mural. We have another one of Johnny Cash behind our brew deck, too, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
But we were set out to brew a beer called Killed by Death, which is a Motorhead tune, and put it into Jack Daniels barrels because Lemmy loves Jack Daniels. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the brew deck, and I'm brewing away. Just me. Back in the day, I've had a bright disposition. Irises were a little more blue than they are now.
Permanent smile.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're brewing beer. This is my job.
And so I said, I knew this was going to be an adjuncted stout, and and we only have so much room in our mash tun, as opposed to double mashing. Like I said, it was just me. I had no problem putting some dry malt extract into the batch. Big stout, who cares?
Yeah.
No big deal.
Right.
Tons of breweries do it.
We do it.
And there's 3 bags up there. There's supposed to be 2 bags of dry malt extract and 1 bag of lactose. They're all in brown bags. 2 bags of lactose and 1 bag of malt extract got put on there.
Whoopsie.
So the beer was going to be way bigger and sweeter than we thought it was going to be.
This ain't Lemmy.
Yeah, I freak out.
Trick question. Lemmy is God.
Yes.
It's not big and sweet.
Yeah. So I freak out. I call every brewer friend I know. I'm like, man, here's what I'm dealing with. Here's the composition of the grain. This is what we were planning. And all of them were like, man, you can't throw it away. Now you got thousands of dollars into this
that's a lot of money.
beer.
Yep.
Toss in the barrels. And I brewed an Imperial Stout years ago called Deer Agony. And I figured this beer on its own, without going into barrels, is undrinkable. I fully admit that. It is so sweet. It needs the tannin. It needs the oak. It needs the aging process.
Just to balance it out, yeah.
Just to balance everything out.
Yep.
And it came out fantastic when all was said and done. But it was supposed to be Killed by Death. Became Deer Agony.
Wow.
So
nice.
Sometimes you just adapt with what happens. And that story is probably my biggest mess up in my brewing career, but it's the mess up that has also helped pay a hell of a lot of bills along the way. So we do 8 variants of this every year. We do individual barrels that we purchase from the breweries. I've actually traveled all the way up to Whistle Pig to buy
from
barrels
distilleries.
to the distillery.
Yeah.
I've gone up to the distilleries to buy the barrels to bring back, and we do them as single. They're not single barrels. I guess they're single origin. Call it single origin. Yeah. So the one we have is Buffalo Trace, and we're going to crack that in a minute. It's a huge beast, 13-something%. This is 2023, so this has been aged for 24 months or 26 months in barrels before it was packaged, and this is just one of the bottles that's still kind of hanging around in our little I don't know what you call it.
Ready when you
our
are.
supply. Yeah. But I will open it with my trusty and vintage Stubborn German bottle opener.
Why is it vintage? Because it's been used a lot?
Yeah. You gave it to me while I was probably drunk at the BBQ, and I've been using it ever since. So
It's pocket aged.
yeah.
Do you have a bottle opener?
Chris goes, "Do you have a bottle?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's yours."
That's awesome.
I mean, most of the time though, I do like to. At this point in my career,
Oh boy.
I've been in home brewing. I've been doing this, for a really long time. I've been lucky enough to brew most of the classic styles through, and now it's not about recipe driven. It's more about a good name and a concept, and you it's going to sound
This is such
weird.
an awesome beer. Sorry.
The craft industry nowadays is reliant. Number one, you have to have good liquid. You just have to.
Yeah. Oh, there's no room for.
But if you make good liquid and don't know how to sell it, and you don't know how to market it, and don't know who you're marketing to, it doesn't matter.
That could be just as bad as not having good liquid.
Yeah. So if we were the rock and roll brewery, but we didn't do rock and roll names, would make sense.
Yeah.
Like we have a couple that don't really have names, but if we just did Heavy Riff Barrel Aged Imperial Stout, wouldn't mean as much. But
Right.
the Gold Skull Dear Agony, which is a song from Breaking Benjamin, there's a little bit more that kind of develops
For sure.
within that. So
Let me try about a half an inch of that.
yeah, absolutely, I got you.
Good
Thank
song
you.
too.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways that those come out. And Dear Agony was a name that I had picked out well before the concept of the brewery had come to life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I
was kind of wondering about the origin. Yeah,
I've been naming my beers after music and inspirations from pop culture, I guess, for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just gets me going.
Yeah. Revs your
Wow,
engine.
there's a lot going on with that one.
Right? Isn't it? It's
2
such a
plus
good
year
beer.
aged in
Such a
Buffalo
good beer.
Trace. It's smooth. I don't drink a ton of it because it's big and sweet. And
Yeah, it's a lot.
as I tell people, I am lactose intolerant, and
But that's your problem.
no, it is.
No, actually, it's everyone else's
That's what
problem.
I'm saying.
I'm not worried about it. You probably should be. Yeah.
Well, that's why I sat over here.
I don't blame you. I'm surprised I'm not outside.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's some kind of distinct flavor that I'm having trouble identifying. It's very good. I like it, but I can't tell. What am I smelling and
I get
tasting?
lots of dark chocolate.
Yeah.
These barrels,
Vanilla.
I remember when we filled these. These barrels were very wet.
Yeah.
There was
Nice.
I mean, they were completely dry.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Legally, they have to be very dry.
100%.
Of course,
Right.
they're totally dry. Yeah.
The taste that you might be finding is Buffalo Trace.
Well,
I mean,
that's
it
in
could
there.
be.
Yeah.
But you're
It's-
right. There's a.
This beer starts. It is strong. It has so much sugar. It does finish sweet. This is a dessert beer. This is the port wine.
It's
of,
almost
of
like
the beer
German
world.
chocolate.
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. And I love little bottles like this. Like, in the previous podcast, I was saying that I don't drink a lot of dark beers. Part is because of palate fatigue. Just for me, I can drink IPAs all night, still
Tongue
discern.
cramps is
But,
what we call
but
it.
when I get into the darker stuff, the roasty and coffee stuff, after say 10, 12 ounces, I'm done.
Yeah, that's a great size for a. Are those
This
Six-
is a
375?
375.
Yeah.
I think we had to go to a different bottle because the
Yeah.
ones we were buying are not being produced anymore.
Gotcha.
And we also hate these bottles because you can. Chris will be able to see this. No one else will. The bottles are not round anymore. They're
ovalish.
They're ovalish,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
creates all kinds of fun when you're trying to put them through a labeler. But
Ovular.
yeah,
All good?
So you got a name, you've got a style.
Yes.
Then what? You got to make a beer now.
Next on my list is you have to kind of do the self checks. Like, is this even a good idea?
Right.
Right. Like, do we have?
But
time?
how do you know?
can we source these ingredients?
Can we get the ingredients? Yeah, that's a huge one.
Sorry to cut Chris
No,
off, but
you're good.
in the early '90s, mid '90s, early 2000s, Dogfish Head was the bee's knees because
Yeah.
they did such crazy off the wall things.
Yep.
And a ton of breweries try to follow in that stead using the weirdest ingredients and whatever else. Dogfish Head was able to do it because they had been the originators of doing those weird things and had found a way to contract the amount of ingredients they needed to make these weird things.
Yes.
Then these other people started opening breweries, oh yeah, we're going to use 140 pounds of molasses in every gallon of beer that we make, and then you realize that you can't afford it, you can't source it, and no one's going to buy it.
Yeah.
So the reality check is a
But
real
besides
thing.
that,
Yeah.
why isn't it a good idea? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's kind of you kind of have to go through those. Also, what I think about is this the right time of the year to make this beer?
Absolutely.
Like when we did Never Say Never, our Berliner Weiss was like a 3.5% alcohol sour. Like, I mean, not even full on sour, just more tart than anything.
Yeah.
Perfect lawnmower beer. To me, that's gonna be like the beer we make in July, maybe August, for those late July, August,
Those big hot
hottest.
nights,
Yeah, like when you're mowing the grass, like that's what I want to drink is something with a little bit of tartness, something low ABV. I can have 4 of them. That's what I'm looking for. Like in the wintertime, right now when we record, like I don't want that. No. Why would you drink that?
Please check your local regulations on consuming beer on lawnmowers.
It took Chris forever.
It's in your yard, Kevin.
That's right. It took you forever to decide that cotton-headed ninny muggins should be a Christmas beer. Like he really was shooting for spring.
I was thinking,
and it just didn't fit.
Yeah, we
4th
should.
of July.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so no, yeah, that should be a Christmas beer.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's,
So you gotta
that's the
decide,
next
is
thing.
it-
You gotta
is
make
now the
sure,
right time?
And even like
Okay.
Hop Tub Time Machine, like, do we already have 4 IPAs on tap? Do we need to make another one right now?
Yeah.
So that goes into it for us anyway, and
Right.
probably the same with you.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll start going through inventory and go, oh shoot, we bought these hops for a project that got delayed, totally forgot about them.
Right?
Boom, time to make something
whatever,
with-
because we got to use these up. Yeah,
But,
exactly.
We're in a position where we have to be careful with that now, because now that we're not so much of a pub, I mean, we still sell a lot of beer over a bar, and
Yeah.
we're very proud of that. But if I make a beer, throw them together, and it sells really well, I better
Now
have the
you-
notes and the
Yeah.
availability
Yeah.
to get that out
Do
to
it
people.
again.
Right.
That's what I was saying. The ability to source and maintain the product is important.
So anything you make, you kind of
Yeah.
almost have to be ready. If it explodes, you kind of got to be ready to
So,
make more.
Got to have the second album material ready.
You're right. There's a lot of breweries that you could easily name that have a house flavor,
Sure.
and that's because they've developed beers around their house yeast, which is it can be one of the most condemning price-wise, because if you buy fresh yeast every batch, thousands and thousands of dollars, and reusing your yeast saves you a lot of money.
Yep.
Chris or I could bring in any yeast we want for one batch, but now I have to make it work for 2 or 3 or 4, because you still have margins you have to hit to be able to,
Right.
pay for the business. Yeah.
Yep.
So you pointed out the economic and the physics, chemistry reasons, but your first point was, is it a good idea?
Yeah.
And
Does it even fit your brand?
Does it make sense?
Yeah. So where do you go to get that answered?
Your customers and your bartender. Who's buying what? Who's talking about what?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
What if they're yearning for something else and they just haven't said so?
Well, sure. I mean, there are trends you're going to follow outside. I mean, just because I'm not up on every single beer that, say Schlafly has on tap, doesn't mean I'm not aware of the trends that are going around the country and what people are drinking. And I find that the hardest thing, all being, in my early 40s and having 2 kids, is that I don't always feel as connected to the outside world. I get out to other breweries so rarely now.
Yeah, you can see what's going on in Waterloo.
There you go.
It's a mellow night. It's a mellow night.
It is a mellow night.
Let me ask you this. I mean, Stubborn falls into the niche of the German, style of beers, and you guys over at Heavy Riff have your, kind of niche. But what if there's a beer that you really want to do that's out of character for what you're doing here? Do you go out on that limb? And how do you get that message out that, hey,
That depends on how many tap handles you have.
Bingo. Yeah, Chris and I are lucky that we have 36 and Chris has
18.
18.
Yeah.
So there's room to experiment. But
For sure.
if you're a smaller brewery and you've got 10 taps and 8 of them are well known, you've got 2 to play with. Usually a seasonal, and then you might be able to do something funky or weird. But if you go, man, I've got this one tap and I just want to make the smokiest beer in the world, you're going to sit on that for a year.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
does it make sense for your customers? It's cool that you want to do it, and you might make the gold medal winning perfect example of whatever style you're trying to
Right.
make.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't sell,
And you might make like 5 customers insanely happy.
Yeah.
And they'll be your customers for life, which might pay off in the
sure,
end.
absolutely.
five of your current customers happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then you're going to have everybody in the world looking for the world's smokiest beer.
Yeah. Passing
You only got
on that one.
handle.
It's interesting, that question, the more I think about it, because you're asking, how do you read the room when there's no one in the room?
Well, it comes from both you guys, and most brewers come from a place of passion.
Yeah,
it's what
absolutely.
you want to do. And you can't tell me that you've not walked into both of your breweries going, man, you know what, I really want to do this one, but I don't think it'll sell.
Yeah.
For sure. No,
Yeah.
that's where it starts. If you're not coming from that place of passion, I mean, what are you even doing? Get out of this business.
You're going through the motions at that point.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Yeah, if you are really, really passionate about, I want to make whatever kind of beer, you better just do it. Otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, that's honestly it. And another thing, like, if our brewers came together with the Hop Tub Time Machine, I knew nothing about it except for when they said, here is what we have planned, and here's the hops we're going to use. This is the recipe. This is the logo. And I'm just like, how the hell do I say no? Why would you say no to that?
And the reason why
even if I would not like it, you'd have to. You gotta
so well
empower them
out.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did that with a couple of brewers that start. What is the beer? What is the name? Who are we selling it to?
Right.
How much do you think? Like, have a complete presentation in your mind.
Is it thought out?
So
Yeah.
I need you to sell me on it before I can sell my other partners on
Right.
it, which means we have to then sell it to our social media and
and everybody and people
Yeah.
and drinkers. Yeah. Yep. So
So-
some of it is to just. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to say to appease your employees, but if our staff is hellbent on whatever
You got
kind
a
of
great
beer,
idea, yeah.
we got 18 taps. I can throw one on for a couple months and like let's try it. And if it doesn't work, like I've made plenty of beers that I thought would really sell and people would really get behind, and they just didn't. So whatever.
Well, how rewarding is it to be part of this organization, have some input, and see it come to fruition and be on a tap handle just on its own? I think that's a great thing for the team.
Yeah,
ultimately, your customers are going to dictate what you make. I would be I'd be flat out lying if I said that I thought that the beers that would continue to pay the bills at my brewery are the ones that are the most popular. I was making hot bombs and some lagers and pale ales. I'm like, yeah, this is a ticket. And it turned out to be a malty brown, a vanilla cream ale, a barrel-aged imperial stout. And those are what pay our bills.
The three big ones, yeah.
And that's fine. That they, your customer is going to choose what's worthy. You can continue to put it out there, and you should continue to challenge your customers, but you also got to listen to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Good point. Okay, so
all right,
then
you come
next,
up with a good idea. You got a great name. You've talked to your bartenders and your customers. You realize they're going to go for this.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you have a bunch of burlap sacks in the back with all the ingredients you might ever need.
And then that
It's a
next
big
morning,
vending
you
machine.
just start making beer.
dumping them in. Yeah.
No, Jared, that's not how it works.
No?
It's not that fast.
How does it work?
Well, there's a little bit more. You do have to come up with. For us, if we're going to can it, you need a logo. So we talked about names, which usually can tie into a logo. If you have a name, you usually are kind of also seeing the picture of the logo in your head. Or that's how I work anyway. Sure. It's like, okay, this name, this logo, okay, yep, we got it. So that's got to get sent off to the graphic artist, right? So in our case, it's Brad, who's been on our podcast before, and he does all of our artwork here. So that's usually at least a 2-week turnaround for him. I mean, you got to give him some time to. And if he's busy or whatever, I sent him some stuff over Christmas break, and it was like, ooh, this is not a good time to do this, and I mean, it just wasn't, and it was 3 or 4 weeks, and that's fine. The guy has a life besides making our
No,
no, he does. So
I assure you,
I promise you,
he's teaching the next generation.
he really is.
right.
Yeah, I know. So that's a whole thing just to do that, and then there's usually a little bit of back and forth between him and us, and then eventually you order, labels.
Yeah, I from my experience dealing with multiple artists, last podcast talked about my best friend who does some logo. It takes him months because it's not what he does, and then there are guys who can turn them around really quickly. The idea from concept to name to finally getting it to needing a label and getting the label right and the name right, and then sending it off to have the printers, 6 weeks sometimes, 7 weeks.
Wow. Sure, yeah.
So if you're not ahead of the game and you're off season, like we were talking about earlier,
right.
Now you're sitting on that idea, and you've now put your time and investment in people to create the logo and all this, and it becomes money you're sitting on
Yeah.
as well.
Yep.
Because if you release that 3.5% Berliner Weiss again in December and you had a whole rollout plan,
right?
You're probably going to sit on
just
it for
waiting
a
on
while.
the cans. And in ideal world for us anyway, and I'm sure you guys too, when you come out with a brand new beer and you're planning on canning it or whatever, it'd be awesome to have it on draft and in cans that on day one.
Absolutely.
Like, why would you want people, like, let's draw people into the bar to try it on draft, which is, that's where the money's made. That's obviously where every brewer wants people to try their beer is at their own bar.
Yeah.
So I want you to come in, drink our beer at the bar. But then, like, we have a bunch of cans over there, but this one's not in it yet, like, because we just don't have our stuff together. But the beer was ready, and we wanted, so it's kind of a half-assed type of a, turnout. Yeah,
that's
that
interesting.
happens here, where people are like,
"What are you talking about, Jared? That doesn't happen."
What is
He's like
Steve's
annoyed.
single
That happens.
in cans, and you
It's
go,
in cans.
it will be on Sunday or whatever. Yeah.
Well, this is becoming an evolution of consumers in general, is that they want all possibilities of owning or obtaining or having that product.
Yeah.
And they
Yesterday.
want it quickly and easy because
Right.
the overnight shipping, your Walmart and your Costco's and your Amazons of the world have made the obtainability of things so easy that small businesses do have a hard time making that commitment in that time for you to have it all. I don't have it in cans and bottles and on draft. Why? I've got a small staff. We'll have it next week.
It just didn't work.
It just
This
didn't work.
Yeah.
But you alienate customers like,
Right.
I'm only in
Right.
for today.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get mad at them. They are in for the day.
Sure.
They're
Sure.
trying to patronize you, but man, it gets tough. It can
Yeah,
really,
that's
really
a
be frustrating.
tough thing to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think as a customer, you need to kind of slow down and appreciate that it takes time. And when you come in and you look back at the brew tanks and be like, oh, wow, they've got fish fries coming. It's going to be here in a couple
coming,
weeks
yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah, you need countdown clocks on each of the tanks.
Which that's not even what's in our tanks. We just put this
Yeah,
crap
those
up
are
here
just-
just to get people excited about stuff. Like, it's not even what's
You're
in
not
it.
making a strawberry kolsch.
Okay, that's all I can
Fish fries been ready for
actually
3
what's in
months.
there.
Well, I think the other thing that's interesting is, people that don't know the process think that you pull a tap handle and the goods come out.
Right.
But every one of those logos and tap handles takes a different amount of time to brew.
Oh gosh, I taught beer making, St. Louis Wine and Beer Making for years and years and years, and the amount of people who thought, so I brew this today, and then like a couple days later I have beer. I'm like, sort of, not really.
Yeah.
This whole packaging, conditioning, letting it sit,
Yeah,
carbonate, all
if you
that
want
stuff.
it to be good,
Yeah.
So I mean, some beers like I think you mentioned at one point, like some beers are literally a 10-day turnaround, and you can do that with no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that literally no problem.
Yeah, I'd
on a
imagine-
professional level, that's easy to do.
I'd imagine like your blueberry wheat.
Yeah.
Most of those,
for sure.
they're
10
10 days.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
Absolutely.
quick, easy.
But
That's great.
But you're not going to do that with Stubborn Fest.
No
that's,
way.
That's
Yeah,
going to
so-
take 6, 8, 10 weeks. Yeah.
So some beers, depending on what name and style and idea we came up with, like they might just take 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks.
So that's
You
an
never
important
know.
part of the recipe creation is how long are they going to sit in tank? How does this tie up my my availability to make more liquid?
The next beer,
The
more
next-
blueberry
the-
wheat
the
or
next
whatever.
10-day beer.
Yeah.
We're seeing a renaissance right now that I love, where smaller brewers are finding ways to make lagers and good quality lagers, and
Yeah.
I freaking
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
Because if there was a thing that was missing from the early 2000s up until about, I don't know, maybe 8-10 years ago, is because of the push to continue to make liquid, everything became an ale. All of it, all
'Cause it's
craft
quick,
beer
right?
became
Cream
an
ale,
ale.
Kolsch, whatever,
And,
blonde.
and
yeah.
people forgot what really good lager tastes like.
Yes, that's a great point. Yep. Yep. No, I love that too, and a lot of being a lager fan myself and German beer, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously.
You go to other breweries and you try some of the stuff, and 10 years ago it's like, oh, you have one lager out of 12 tap handles. All right, let's try it, and it was always a letdown.
Oh, and gosh, how many times was that? This is our lager, and you could tell
Yeah.
that it was like a clean California ale yeast, and it was like it was a really nice blonde ale.
But they didn't lager
But it
that.
wasn't. It wasn't a lager.
It was just clean.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that being in the know, you can read what that business is up to by
for
what's
sure.
on the handles.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you have 12 tap handles and one is a lager, I mean, odds are I don't want it.
Yeah.
I will try it because
Well, you know,
I love lager.
Actually, I kind of disagree with you on that, especially in today's day, because
Yeah.
that one tap is probably the one tap that belongs to the head brewer.
Well, now, today
who
for
wants
sure.
to have that
Yes.
pilsner or lager or being on tap.
Yeah,
This is some deep insights here, Jared.
Gets back to the
You know?
owner
It
like
is.
you
Yeah,
got
I
to give me
know.
one tap ale. That is mine.
When I go into a new brewery now, the first things I want to taste, if you have a lager, I'm going to taste your lager.
For sure.
If you have a Belgian, I'm going to rate you on your Belgian.
Which
and-
I'm curious on.
Yeah, and your
we'll
pale
get there.
and your pale or IPA.
Uh-huh.
If you not hazy stuff, I'm talking about your straightforward, clean.
Sure.
That's going to tell me basically because everything else could be a hazy, sour, this, that, the other. But
It's derivatives of all that.
correct.
Yeah.
But that's going to tell me
Yep.
how good are you at brewing
Yeah.
because you're not hiding anything. in
Can
those
you do
beers.
lagers? Can you do hoppy?
Yeah.
Can you do Belgian? Yeast? Can you handle yeast? Like,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
it is
awesome.
one of the things that I appreciate about Stubborn German, and I think Chris and I are on the same page in a lot of ways, is the lager selection. You go to a lot of other local breweries, and it's just all ales. And, that's fine, but a good lager is very good,
Make what I like to drink, sir.
right? Yeah, and that's the other thing. You talked about the passion for it. I think Kevin brought that up. You have a passion for this. And when you can tell that you have a passion for lagers that not everybody does, and it takes more time and effort, that's
yeah.
worth
well,
something
and
to your
at
customers.
some point, you just don't care. Like, I realize
Yeah.
it takes longer.
Right.
It's probably a little more expensive.
Yeah.
In the
Just
long
gonna
run,
do
to
this.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But, anyways, so
Anyway,
where were we?
So, good. So let's talk about ingredient selection.
Yeah.
We've got a name. We've got a concept.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
you've already talked to the artist.
We've already
now
talked
you
to
got to
him, yeah.
make this. You're going to dump stuff into a container. What is it? Where
Yeah,
did
so
you
we
get
got to
it?
figure out what ingredients we're going to make. So we make monthly grain orders, and we contract hops. So hopefully, whatever hops this is going to happen, or this beer is going to have in it, already happens to be something that we contract, which would be great. But if not, then you got to go source hops elsewhere, which basically means you just go online and find something that is affordable and what you want.
Yeah, or send a text out to your
Yeah.
local guys.
Yeah.
Go, who has some hops?
Get on the
'Cause-
the
'cause I
Brewers
need some.
Facebook page
Yeah.
for St. Louis and,
Yep.
and see who's sitting on a box of whatever
Whatever,
you need.
yeah.
Yeah, which that works too.
It does. It
Yep,
does.
for
Works
sure.
very well.
Yeah.
We've got a very friendly community here in St.
We
Louis
really
when it
do.
comes to that
Yep,
stuff.
yep,
You need lids, you need cans, you need, I don't know, whatever it is.
yeah. So yeah, there's that part of it. There's like for our part of it, a lot of times we make a one-off beer. Sometimes we'll try to make that into like a release party. So is there going to be a release party with it? Does that need to be planned? Liz is
Yeah.
our bartender that handles all that stuff. So like, is she on board with this beer idea?
Yeah.
So that's like something
Right.
that kind of needs to be thought out and talked about. I already have 4 things for April, so we don't need
Yeah.
another one,
Right.
or whatever. Or, okay, well, let's do it in May. So that's a thing.
Well, for sure, yeah. There's more than just making it. Now people got to know about it.
Yeah, there's the marketing end of it. And then, yeah, like once you have the beer, you've made the beer, you figured out the recipe, you made the beer, you've waited your 3 to 6 weeks or whatever. It's in your bright tank. It's ready to package. How are you going to package it? Is this going to be a can thing? So for our situation, it's pretty cut and dry. Everything goes on draft here, right? Pretty much everything gets canned. I mean, just about everything gets canned also, and we'll throw it in our can fridge. And so we do can and draft of everything, but like not necessarily for you guys, right?
Yeah, so with 4 distributors, when they find out that we are doing a new beer, we have to sample it with them, or at least give them a really good idea of what the beer is going to taste like, because ultimately their salespeople are going to know those accounts that would want to buy it.
Right.
And then we have to figure out, okay, amongst those accounts, who does only cans, who only buys half barrels, who only buys 6 barrels, and then ultimately what do we need in-house to sell ourselves, and then split that
Subtract that out and
accordingly. Yeah. It never goes right the first time, ever.
That's a lot.
We're still figuring that out today. That's where projections and forecasting come in, which is another part of actually introducing a new beer. If you've basically set your schedule for the next year with your distributor, we have these 4 seasonals, we have these 2 super seasonals, and we have this one ultra special release, and here's our regulars, and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, we got this. Now, like, well, we need a UPC for it. Where you plan on selling it? Have you talked to any of the grocery stores about this? Have you pre-sold any of it yourself? There's just a lot more that goes into it.
And you have a lot more to deal with than we do on that end of it. Yeah, for sure.
Just putting the beer on tap in the pub is never a problem, except for the fact that if we do that once and then do it twice and it sells really well, we'd better have figured out how we're going to move this on.
Yeah,
and if we
send
do that
it out for distribution.
Sure, and if we do that, say it's another IPA, well, does this cut into our other IPA sales?
Right.
And
is that a good move?
And then how does that affect our hop contract for the year that we've already got going? So there's a lot that goes on in the broad spectrum with distribution and self purchase pub than there is just running a pub.
For sure.
Do you ever think of that end first and go, yeah, we'd really like to make this, but I know it's going to screw up everything else, so forget it?
I mean, I've absolutely...
You can see that far ahead. You're like the chess player. You're like, nope, we're not even doing
it. I will never forget this. My business partner, Rick, and myself and our other partner, Greg, we were next door to our place at Felix's Pizza, good friends of ours, having a delicious pie and some pints. And we were talking about what we were going to release, and I said, I'm going to make vanilla cream ale. It wasn't Love Gun at the time. Just I'm going to make this. I'd homebrewed it for years. All that.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
It's going to be good. It's going to sell well. And Rick immediately had trepidation. Like, is that really going to sell well? And then it did. Sometimes you do know, but we've had things that didn't sell well that we thought, like, man, this is going to be the jam.
Yeah.
We had a dry hopped American wheat beer called Super Session.
Sounds awesome.
It was fantastic.
Did you bring any?
No. It was kind of, admittedly, it was kind of my homage to Gumball Head.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We had a marketing campaign, had a cool label, all that kind of stuff, and we missed on that one. We did. We sold through the beer, but it didn't move fast enough to warrant
to keep going.
To keep it going.
Find something else. Yeah.
As a pub beer, it worked great, but you're like, this beer's actually kind of expensive to make when it's 4%, but it's dry hopped to bejesus, and the price is the same amount as
an IPA that's 7%.
Yeah, 7%. Right. People do tend to buy based on ABV.
Oh, for sure. If it's the same price, give me my bang for my buck.
I'm never going to tell anyone to not shop what your wallet tells you that you want. If you want to buy 4 pints and really get uptown where the buses don't be running, buy the Run and Riot, man. You get 6-7%. If you want to really chill in front of the TV and just have a really mellow afternoon, I'd probably go with the Super Session.
Right.
It's your money. It's your money.
True. Good stuff.
So how do you decide? I know you've got your year-round beers that we can find for the last 7 years, but then you've got the...
Thanks, Jared.
they're
so excited.
They're the big hits.
Yeah, well, of course.
And then you got your one-offs or your annual seasonals.
Yeah.
How do you decide when one has been successful enough or popular enough that maybe we bring it back more often or year-round or whatever?
Two things. Either... I love to drink that beer that much, so I need it all year round.
That's the weighted factor there.
Like our Pilsner. Or people yell at me really loudly and aggressively when I don't have it, like the blueberry wheat.
Okay.
So that's been pretty easy for me.
I'm going to say, I'm going to look at the board right now. I'm going to guess Mosaic IPA might be one of those that people kind of ask for.
No, that's just a one-off.
But I feel like you have that more than just once a year, right?
Well, we did make we made 2 batches of it here lately. Okay. Yeah, okay. So
when I say one-off,
that's something to be said.
As opposed to fish fry that you're only going to have.
Yes, we have 9 beers that we make all year round that should always be on tap when you come in. 9 beers all the time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're out of something. We'll get it back soon. That's my thing. Is like, I don't want to run out of any of our year-round beers, okay? Yeah. The other 9 to round out our 18 would be the Steve Swingin', the Mosaic, the Scottish, the Wheelhouse. We'll make them periodically throughout the year. Some will make more often than others, and there's some rhyme and reason to that. The IPA beers, like we had Idaho Gem, we have Mosaic. Right. I have a handful of IPA recipes that I really, really like that we're kind of sticking with those, say 5 or 6 recipes throughout the year. We're just going to rotate them around, and that's that. And so that's where we're at with Mosaic.
Chris, what was the beer that you begrudgingly kept brewing? I forget. There was one style or one
Blueberry.
Blueberry, yeah.
Was it the blueberry?
Yeah, that's
I
my-
thought there was a different one that
Close
you were like,
second
oh, I
was
don't.
the pumpkin ale.
Yeah.
Oh.
Pumpkin spice.
So it was the blueberry wheat.
I've got other stories like our alt beer. I love to drink, and I think it's personally
I
one
love
of
alt
the
beer.
best alt beers I've ever
Yeah.
had. But that's my opinion, and I make it, and I love it. But whatever. But
You're so
that,
humble.
I know, right? but I love it. I don't care if you love it. That's why it's on one of our 9. But
it is delicious.
people don't always love that or want to go to a beer with just a boring brown logo.
Man,
and-
I could swear it was a different.
So I've had
it was a
love-hate-
different beer than that.
I've had love-hate relationships
Yeah.
with like alt beer. Old Ledger Lager was another one. Like it was a pain in the butt, like to brew it in the like out of the mash. Because
Yeah.
at first we started with rice, we changed that to corn, and that's helped a lot. But
Hey.
so I've had issues with both.
on the rice portion of it, and we don't do anything with rice currently. But I moved to rice syrup.
Yeah, and that was my next.
Yeah.
That was my next
It-
move
it-
before I switched to corn. I was like, it's better as corn anyway.
It's not any more expensive than buying the flaked rice, and
Yeah.
you just put it in the boil.
And the ledger literally says use either corn or rice, whatever's available.
Sure, that makes
wow.
sense.
Well, you know what?
So
Done.
have you ever renamed or rebranded the same beer? So take alt beer, and if it's not moving the way you want, change it
Have you-
into Waterloo the Bomb or something. And,
So not that, but it's like you're reading my mind or something. Fountain Creek Kolsch is a honey Kolsch.
yeah.
Always has been since we opened.
Yep.
This year, we already kegged it. We made it without honey, so it's a straight up standard German
interesting.
Kolsch. Nothing, no honey. We reformulated the recipe a little bit to kind of counteract for that honey.
Get it so dry.
Yeah, and try to keep it dry. The logo is very similar, but we did have Brad take the B out of the middle of it and take all the honeycomb
Right.
background out of it.
Sure.
So
in
we
that-
have a half barrel left of it, and when that's gone, you'll see that change. And then, I mean, it's time to grow up. Like, let's put our big boy pants on. And
Well, but in that case, you did change the beer.
Yeah.
the beer, the liquid changed for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
talking
Now,
about.
here we go.
I think
asking in particular if it was
Yeah,
really
sorry.
the
Yeah.
alt beer name and the brown logo that people aren't clicking with.
Maybe and probably at first for sure until we kind of like we made t-shirts about
Yeah.
it like of the same color, and on the back it said if you know you know, and the front said
Yeah.
alt beer. Didn't even say Stubborn German on it at
Sure,
all.
yeah, yeah.
Like just stuff like that. Now I think people do catch on to where we brew it just as much as our Pilsner and it's in regular rotation now.
Well,
Where before it was like 3 batches of Old Ledger to 1 batch of alt beer,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of like, oh, it's the
Now I think
redheaded
I'm
stepchild
not
that no one.
revealing anything we haven't already talked about on the
Oh,
podcast.
here we go. Get ready to
But-
delete, Jared.
Isn't deer beer the same as
Oh,
fish fry?
How dare you? Yes. Well,
Yes.
no, it's very
close.
similar.
It's very-
sportsman
Yes.
centric.
It's close.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
sportsmen. Fish fry is
Yes.
lighter in color. We have like 1 pound of Carafa 3 in deer beer, and we take that out for fish fry.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
One of them is in camouflage. It's hard to find.
Right.
Well,
Thank you.
the reason why I was asking about that
Unless
is
it has this hunter orange on for the day.
in my day job we do a ton of video production, and there are tools now that will analyze your thumbnail for your video, and will tell you, hey, give me another one, and we'll compare them. We'll A/B test
Yeah.
them, and one thumbnail might hit, and people will love it and watch that video, but another one they won't. But it's the same
Sure.
product.
Gotcha.
So it's just a matter
Oh,
of-
I see what you're saying with the alt beer. Yeah.
Right. So if alt beer, maybe people don't know what alt is, and they just whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying.
That's
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with alt beers. It is its own thing. There is.
It's not an ale. It's not a lager.
There's nothing else that's
Well,
really
you can't
like
name
it.
it what it's not.
Yeah.
But you could
Yeah.
name the alt beer.
We could have totally named it like, Hans's, crazy
There you go.
beer or something,
Right.
and
Yeah.
just it happens to be an
Hans's
alt beer.
crazy beer. It's the wonderful alt beer
It's a
that you
Verrückte
want.
beer.
Yeah,
That's crazy, right? Hans Verrückte beer. But
good picture of Hans up there. I'd bet.
no, that wasn't the. We were going for the if you know what an alt beer is, like here's our example of
for
one.
sure.
I don't think anyone.
Authentic.
I don't think anyone would listen to it, but you could probably put Chris and I on a podcast talking about alt beer for an hour and a half. We would be very entertained.
Yes.
No one else
Jared
is.
could just show up
Yeah.
and hit record.
Yeah.
and
I'll be at the bar, guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Everyone's snoozing out
that's
there.
fine with me, man.
Yeah.
What are you doing after this?
Interesting.
drinking
Okay.
all beer, apparently.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like
you've picked a label, you've picked a name, you've got the ingredients, you've made the beer, it's ready to go.
If
now
all
it's,
that happens,
Yep.
it's release day, right?
So-
So for us, that's Tuesday because we're closed on Monday. That's our day off. It's our break to kind of reset and get new beers on and all
Yeah.
that. Are you off on? Are you closed on Monday?
No.
So when
No,
is your
man.
when is your reset day like that? Like for us, it's natural just
So,
since we're off. But
we don't really have one.
gotcha. So it's just if it's Thursday and this beer's ready, here it is.
Yeah. I mean, we used to be off completely on Sundays, and that was our day to go in and like do whatever.
Right.
But being in the neighborhood with all the housing around, we're open.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
We need to be open.
Yep.
I find
Chris.
Calm down. You know what? This is an opportunity. We're now on a Monday when we're closed,
Right.
we can go to
Out
have
on
a
that,
drink.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
why are you not hanging out?
I know.
Right?
You're right. This is a problem, actually.
Yes, it doesn't have to be. After we release the beer, when it's the first go through, so we've gone through all those steps, I immediately go, what am I changing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same.
What were my expectations? How is it now? How do I get it where I want it?
Yep.
And there's twofold problems to that. If you release it and people love
it.
you can't change a thing, or you have to do it
Right.
so slowly over time.
Yep. Over 10 batches,
Yeah.
you eventually get where you want it to be.
Or if the batch bombs, which, I mean, we've been very lucky that none's ever bombed, but you have to go, maybe people don't want this, and then you shift your
Right.
your mental capabilities to other places because now you can't take it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I used to do a lot of, homebrewing gave me the initial recipes for the riff. Then went to, trial by fire, learning the systems, brewed on, so many now that I'm pretty much able to not have to do test batches until recently
Right.
because it used to be more about malt. Chris can probably attest to this with me. We got into a phase there in like the late aughts.
The aughts.
The aughts, where we weren't getting a whole lot of differentiation in ingredients. The hops were the kind of the hops,
Yeah.
the yeast were the yeast, and you just kind of played with those. Then we got into doing non-GMO yeasts and altering DNA with them to produce different flavors.
Right.
There was a hop crisis in 2009, 10, 11, and when that came out of that, all of these producers started really going after higher alpha acids in your hops, different flavors. Everyone says everything is citrusy. They're all liars. But so now we get all these samples, and so the Hopsteiner guy or
Yes.
the YCH hop rep will come by and they drop a big old bag in your lab and go, here's some samples of hops. And I have to have a talk with these guys because here's the problem. There's 2 ounces of hops inside.
Yeah. What am I going to do with 2 ounces of it?
Even for a home brewer, that's
Right.
not really enough to explore the options. So then we source more, and so now I'm actually back to probably once a month. It's mostly with hops, a little bit with yeast. I'm experimenting with the different hops so that the next brewery doesn't come up, find that one, and leaves me behind.
Right,
Like Citra did.
Yeah.
Back when it came out, all of a sudden, if you weren't brewing with Citra, man,
Yeah, what
your
are you
beer,
doing?
Your beer wasn't nothing.
Right.
So that's where recipe development's sort of at now, is like, what do these yeasts do with all this? They throw out technical terms, thiolization, and
Yeah.
we now have ones where they're taking genes out to where they don't produce specific flavors in their off products, such as diacetyl and sulfur, which is really cool for brewers, but you have to experiment with them before you start taking them to a large scale.
That stuff worries me. Like
Yeah.
we go through a lot of trouble to minimize and reduce those off flavors in our beers.
Yep.
And now,
They become part of our processes.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And now you can just buy either an enzyme or some yeast that,
It's already done.
yeah. And it's like, well, are you creating a lazy brewer? Like,
Sure.
It's a different brewer.
Well, so here's the thing. I think amongst us, our generation of brewers used to have to do things like diacetyl rest and salt, and make sure that we've given enough ample time for sulfur to reduce
Sure.
and things. You're creating not negative but shortcuts, and
Right.
what happens to a new brewer who's never experienced that before, because that's the yeast they're now used to.
Yeah, because I know how to deal with. If I have a beer in the bright tank that has sulfur or diacetyl,
You know how to deal
if
with it.
if I catch it
Yeah.
in time, I can fix those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the story of evolution, friends, because our iPhone does not have film in it, and nobody needs to know how to use film anymore.
That's true. That's true. I did just pop another beer if anybody wants.
Yeah, what are we
Okie dokie.
pouring here?
Yeah, so this is a really unique example of recipe formulation. This is called Hat Dance.
Hat dance.
Hat
All
dance, like Mexican hat dance.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it.
So it's a Mexican chocolate inspired porter.
Yummo.
So the way this one came about, there was a small local chain, not really a chain, franchisee opportunity with these guys who started the beer sauce shop, beer and barbecue, right up my alley.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite thing.
Beer and barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about barbecue. We
I
had John
know,
for 2
I
hours.
know.
We have it. Yeah. They were selling. I went in to do a promo event with them. They were selling this spice rub that was all Mexican hot chocolate.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, man, I bet I can really make a beer with it. There was no salt in it or anything. It was just like Mexican hot chocolate ingredients, but ground down.
Gotcha.
Took that work with them, did a collaboration beer just before COVID on that. So the name came later, but the idea of the beer, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, yep, that could be a stout, that could be a porter. I'm already doing a big old stout. I don't need to do anything barrel aged. Porter is. And and then it just kind of
Yep.
took off
Nice.
from there.
It's very good.
I really like this
It's got
beer.
just a little bit of heat there. Yeah.
Little
that's
heat
awesome.
on the back and ancho chilies. We add a little extra cinnamon to it. We really
I
like
like
this
it a
beer.
lot.
Yeah, this is my kind of a winter beer because
Yes.
it's dark and intense in flavor, but it doesn't drink so heavy on the palate. That's
Yeah.
why I
Right.
like that we did it as a porter as opposed to a stout.
Yeah. So this would be like our El Diablo, but
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
our El Diablo is barrel aged and it's a stout, like 13% alcohol, and thick and chewy. Where this is a
Yeah.
little more slimmed down as far as body goes, and yeah,
Yeah, it's still still big. I forget what the ABV is on this darn thing. 8, 9.
sure.
Hey, it was pretty close. 8.6.
8.9.
There you go.
Perfect, yeah.
Nice. That's a great beer.
So that's an example of just seeing something being inspired immediately, going, "This is a good idea," and they were selling a lot of our beer at their shop, so it worked out as a great collaboration. It kind of sucks that they, as their brand, is not around anymore. But
Yeah.
really enjoyed getting that spice mix, and we were able to locate where that was being made out of,
Oh, nice.
and still were able to buy the mix. So
That's cool.
good for us, so we can still make the beer because we really
Right.
like it, whether it's a collab or not a collab.
And that's a product of having the experience of knowing what's going to work.
Sure. Yeah, that goes into my barbecue experience as well with spices and rubs. I've got a competition barbecue team I've been with for 7 years
Shout it
now
out.
or something
Mother
like that.
Porkers.
Mother Porkers Barbecue,
That's
baby.
good stuff.
We'll be down here at the old
Beer-BQ.
man.
Beer-BQ.
Love it. It's my favorite barbecue event of the year.
Yes.
Nice.
If you guys have not come down to that, it's pretty amazing.
It's a blast.
All the restaurants are great. A couple of the bars are open late at night. Usually every other year the weather's good.
Right? That's
It-
about
it
it.
really is,
That's
yeah.
about
And
it.
every year, nobody cares.
Right.
Well, enough
No
beer
one
and you
cares.
just don't
No one
care.
cares about the weather.
Yeah,
Great,
everything's
great
fine.
barbecue.
So,
Yeah.
so Jared's the best. Jared will homebrew at his
I do.
house, not his brewery,
Yep.
at his house.
Yep.
He'll
Tent.
homebrew some beer, 5 or 10 gallons, and he'll have a tent where he's serving barbecue and his own beer.
I think we're
right
the
out of
only.
there.
I think we're the only team that does both. The
There's
beer
one more
and
now.
Oh, is
Now.
there?
Yeah,
Oh, sweet!
yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'll have to meet those guys.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
It's Josh Perschbacher.
Yeah.
Josh Perschbacher did the
Nice.
the
That's
ESP
really cool.
and the
Yep.
and his Yep. I know that's awesome to see teams getting into it like that. So yeah.
So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of considerations. It's not just, hey, let's brew this.
No,
I got an idea.
Sometimes it's that simple, but usually not.
Yeah, well, it's neat to dive into all that, and this, this episode kind of geeked out on in a different look behind the curtain because we're
Sure.
not talking necessarily about
Yeah.
ingredients or
if Chris, and
styles
I, we could go on forever about how that works in a homebrew realm or
Yeah.
something like that for sure because it's a way different inspiration.
Right.
It's being able to brew on a smaller scale and buy anything you want. Man, it's a completely different thing.
Right.
yeah, less risky and
Yeah, because the only one you're going to fail is yourself, and you can throw it away. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's cool. Well, I appreciate that insight. I
Yeah.
think that would be helpful to a lot of people who are kind of thinking about that.
Yeah. I hope people are interested in the kind of the behind the scenes of what goes on. I know they are. People are interested. They want to know what it takes to get into their glass that they're drinking. But what they really want to know about,
Jared,
Kevin,
stop it.
Yes.
is the German word of the day.
That was
boy.
amazing.
That was so good.
I hope
Have you
I
been
hope I'm
waiting
right.
an hour to
I've been waiting
for that? Okay. Oh, you must mean Kleiderschrank.
Right, the
course.
cleater
Kleiderschrank?
Baseball cleats.
right.
So Jared says, downstairs lady piercing.
Oh man,
That's so awesome. And
Can't even say it with a straight face.
That is a beer at your place, isn't it?
I don't know. Was it a song?
It's
Yeah.
gonna be.
It was a song. It was a song by the Bangles.
Yes. That's why she walked like an Egyptian.
There was a follow-up song, "Walk This Way."
It was a
oh man,
manic Monday for sure.
get that beat button going.
Yeah. How do I follow this? Okay. The other Jared says baseball cleat.
Cleat, of course. It's
Yeah,
a cleat.
yeah.
Soccer cleat. What's
Mind
that
out of the
for
gutter.
soccer
Good
cleat?
job. Kevin
Yeah.
says a hero sandwich, which I Googled and learned that it means grinder.
See,
If you're not from New Jersey. Like
Well,
right.
but grinder sandwiches are big in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
I
that's-
had
well,
to translate. For
I didn't know
him.
what a hero sandwich was. It's a grinder.
I had
Okay,
to
got it.
translate the
Yeah.
German word
A
into
hero
a
and a
Jersey
gyro are
sandwich
different.
into a St. Louis sandwich word.
So awesome guesses again, as usual, folks. But
Well, one was.
yeah, one was awesome. Kleiderschrank actually means wardrobe.
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 How
Okay.
how did you not guess that?
Of course.
That's
it
kind of a
does.
letdown there, Mr. Ron.
Sorry,
Wardrobe.
It's a lovely, easy to understand language. That German.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Leader shrunk.
It's springtime. I got an all new cleater
It's
shrunk.
just,
a
it's just,
whole new
just
cleater
beautiful.
Hey, you got to put that on the website in the merch department.
The Kleiderschrank
Cleater
department, and our T-shirt sales go down by 75%.
If you put that up there,
Oh yeah,
and then you have
Kleiderschrank.
yeah,
cleater
and
shrunk
you
here with an arrow
With a ear.
pointing down.
You got one drawer down there.
I was
No one's
wondering-
supposed to go into, and you open up like, no, this is the downstairs lady
That's the
part.
downstairs lady
Close- you have to close that
Don't
one.
do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my God, Kevin, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Hey, listen, if you had as much fun as we did, we'll do more of these. It's like Doritos. We'll make more. Just click that subscribe button, and a new episode of the Stubborn German Podcast will arrive no matter where you choose to subscribe. We appreciate that. And for the two Jareds and Mr. Chris Ron, I'm Kevin Oosty saying thank you for listening, and
Gross.
Gross. Cheers. Thanks for having me, guys.
I think we got any.
We are recording.
Jared's like,
We need more BS.
a lot of the
Oh,
show
yeah.
was BS last time.
Yeah.
Actually, the whole show was. No.
Just take the beginning and put it on the end.
Actually, that was like a really good, informative episode. Honestly,
Yeah.
It was like a real podcast.
I know.
And it's like we know what we're doing.
Not like this grab ass stuff we normally do.
Did Chris tell you what we're going to talk about on this episode?
Yeah, recipe formulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Something like that.
all right.
Something like that.
Something I can attest to.
Another-
I taught brewing classes at Wine and Beer Making for a decade.
Nice.
Yeah,
a good thing you're here.
Well, and it's basically anything from like just having the idea for a new beer, however that might show up, to getting the beer on tap and in a package.
Well, if we taste Dear Agony, I've got a good story about how a recipe can go awry and still make things good.
nice. Okay.
If you guys want to do that,
Yeah, we'll definitely-
Yeah, if we taste
You have
it.
the bottle opener, so you're in control.
I do. It's over by you guys. So
I have
when
to
when it
come
gets
up with
passed
a-
down, we'll make it work.
German word of the day, though. Hold on. Oh yeah, this will be fun.
I'm sure it will be.
We have confetti prepared for when one of our guests finally gets the right
It's
word.
right up there. It's full
Balloons.
string.
Confetti,
Every once in a while, one piece falls down.
hundreds, they all come out of the ceiling.
Hundreds.
I
Yeah.
like it.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. I almost spilled on my cleater shrunk.
I got it. My microphone sponge.